This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. From streaming to shopping, Prime helps you get more out of your passions. So whether you're a fan of true crime or prefer a nail-biting novel from time to time, with services like Prime Video, Amazon Music, and fast free delivery, Prime makes it easy to get more out of whatever you're into or getting into. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to learn more.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
First of all, thank you for the invitation and thank you very much for your efforts, personal efforts to stop killings and stop this war. Thank you. And using this opportunity, many thanks to your wife, First Lady of the United States. She sent a letter to Putin about our children, abducted children, and my wife, First Lady of Ukraine, she gave the letter. It's not to you, to your wife.
I want.
Yeah. So we are saying this sensitive topic. Yes, please. And thanks to our partners and that you supported this format. That after our meeting we can have leaders who are around us, UK, France, Germany, Italy, Finland, EU, NATO. I mean all partners around Ukraine supporting us. Thanks to them and thank you very much for the invitation.
Thank you very much for being here. If everything works out well today, we'll have a trilat, and I think there will be a reasonable chance of ending the war when we do that.
President Zelenskyy, are you prepared to keep sending Ukrainian troops to their deaths for another couple years, or are you going to agree to redraw the maps?
Thank you for your question. So, first of all, we live under each day attacks. That today have been a lot of attacks and a lot of wounded people, and the child was dead, small one year and a half. So we need to stop this war, to stop Russia, and we need support American and European partners. And we will do our best for this. So, I think we show that we are strong people, and we supported the idea of the United States, personally of President Trump, to stop this war, to make a diplomatic way of finishing this war, and we are ready for trilateral, as President said. This is a good signal about trilateral. I think this is very good. Thank you.
Well, sir, it is Rush Hour. It is the Monday edition. Of course, this afternoon, we are seeing all sorts of reports about the meeting between not just Volodymyr Zelenskyy, but the European leaders who, according to Margaret Brennan from CBS News, who interviewed Marco Rubio today, were sent here so that President Trump would not bully poor Zelenskyy. And, it's just kind of amazing that is where we're at. Of course, you heard Volodymyr Zelenskyy thank Donald Trump for his efforts. If everything works out today, of course, President Trump says what we will have is a trilateral agreement. Zelenskyy is asking that any future meetings, Vladimir Putin sits at the table with them, wearing a black suit instead of his usual military clothing. Mr. Zelenskyy was greeted by Mr. Trump warmly at the entrance to the West Rim. The Ukrainian leader, now 3.5 years into war instigated by Russia, was expected to confront a difficult choice during his visit: surrender territory or hold his ground and risk reigniting the bully's anger. Well, apparently he did not have to do that. He did not have to. By the way, he did take a question that was pretty funny about the suit and him wearing the suit. Hysterical as it is. So anyway, it all looks like it may be flowing the proper way. You had the European Union president who declared, hey, we just made the biggest trade deal. Von der Leyen, her name, anyway. Von der Leyen. We just made the biggest trade deal. Now we're here. Hope we can make a great deal. Macron, who has been very critical of Donald Trump in recent years, also displaying cordial talk about how this should be able to accomplish everything. Now, what is the mood in the Ukraine about all of this? Harry Inton from CNN, apparently they poll Ukrainian people. That would be cut number 11, Carlos. And that was quite interesting as well. This is what he had to say.
There have been some absolutely major shifts. The idea that Ukraine's going to achieve complete victory, that idea has collapsed within Ukrainian society. What are we talking about here? Ukrainians on the war versus Russia. You go back to 2022, the start of the war. Fight until Ukraine wins. Look at this. The vast majority, about three-quarters, 73% agreed with that position. Negotiate to end the war as soon as possible, only 22%. Look at where we are now. It's a complete flip. It's the inverse. Now 69% want to negotiate to end the war as soon as possible, compared to just 24% who want to fight until Ukraine wins. That's a 49-point drop in this position. Now, of course, negotiating to end the war as soon as possible, that's a bit more nuanced, right? Ukrainians don't want to agree to all of Russia's demand, but I think the idea of even there being some territory that would be not formally recognized as being given that Russia could in fact stay in, that does have majority support, but the idea of formal recognition of Russia's demands, absolutely not.
All right. Why do you think that opinion has changed to the extent that it has?
Well, I think one of the big reasons why opinions have changed is this idea that this war is going to end anytime soon. Ukrainians don't think it will. Take a look here. Ukrainians on the war ending within a year. Just 25% say that it is likely. Look at this. 68%. 68% say it is unlikely that the war will, in fact, end in a year. And you'll notice, John, this 68% looks a heck of a lot like this 69% who say that they want to negotiate to end the war as soon as possible.
So President Trump overnight ruled out Ukraine joining NATO, seemingly ever, but what do Ukrainians feel about that?
Yeah, you know, obviously Ukrainians would like to join NATO. That has been a goal of theirs for a number of years. But the idea that that NATO admission will happen within 10 years, look at the collapse in this position. 2022, it was 64%. Now it is just half that level at 32%. So, again, this is one of the goals that, Ukrainians had since the beginning of the war. They no longer believe that it's achievable. Well, the idea that Russia is going to be forced out of all of that land that they're occupying, they don't necessarily believe that that is going to happen. So, again, I think this is one of the reasons why Ukrainians, they certainly don't want to accede to every Russian position, certainly not most of them, but the idea that they do want to negotiate and end to this war as soon as possible, that has now gone through the roof. Again, we're talking about 69%, which is such a big difference from where we were at the beginning of the war when it was just 22.
Wanting to negotiate doesn't mean wanting to surrender.
Correct.
It means wanting to discuss, and not believing that they'll join NATO is different than wanting to join NATO.
You got it.
But you can very much see how Ukrainian thinking has changed over the last few years.
Absolutely, John.
Harriet, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, one of the reporters at the White House also asked Volodymyr Zelenskyy if he is prepared to keep sending Ukraine, I believe it was Ducey. It looked like Ducey to me. I'm not 100% sure from Fox whether he is prepared to keep sending Ukrainian troops to their deaths rather than to redraw the maps. That's cut 5, Carlos. And this is how Mr. Zelenskyy answered that question.
President Zelenskyy, are you prepared to keep sending Ukrainian troops to their deaths for another couple years, or are you going to agree to redraw the maps?
Thank you for your question. So, first of all, we live under each day attacks. That today have been a lot of attacks and a lot of wounded people, and the child was dead, small one year and a half. So we need to stop this war, to stop Russia, and we need support, American and European partners. And we will do our best for this. So, and I think we show that we are strong people, and we supported the idea of the United States, of personally of President Trump, to stop this war, to make a diplomatic way of finishing this war, and we are ready for trilateral, as President said. This is a good signal about trilateral. I think this is very good. Thank you.
One of the things that I thought was most interesting about this is not something I expect to be played over and over again in the mainstream media, because this shows, I think, Donald Trump's motivations for why he's doing what he's doing. Cut 7, Carlos. And again, I wonder if we're going to see this particular comment played in the mainstream media as often as they play things that they consider to be detrimental to Donald Trump.
Well, I know Ukrainian people. I've known many over the years. They're great people. They're smart. They're energetic. They love their country. I mean, they love their country, and we want to get this war ended. That's all I can do. I love the Ukrainian people, but I love all people. I love the Russian people. I love them all. I want to get the war stopped. Very important.
Yes, I want to get the war stopped. I love all people. This is something, my friends, the underlying motive. Donald Trump also talked about the deals that he has made already, and that's the motivation. You know, the other day on the Saturday show, we played a clip. We opened, in fact, the show with a clip from Bill Maher, and in the clip, he was giving Trump, I guess one would say, begrudging praise, but he did say one of the things about Donald Trump. One of the things about Donald Trump is that he really is about wanting peace, that he does not like to see, this is a big issue for him, trying to do as much as he can for seeing wars stop and seeing deaths associated with war also stop. So one of the things that Donald Trump talked about also in the question and answer session, besides mail-in voting, and of course the liberals are having a cow about that, he talked about the letter that his wife, the First Lady, sent to Vladimir Putin, and he also talked about the media and how they've been critical of him. So let's do those two things in order, Carlos. The letter that our First Lady, Melania Trump, sent to Vladimir Putin, that's cut 9, and then go right to the next one, the phenomena about the media and the way that they've been reporting all of this.
The First Lady felt very strongly. She's watched the same thing that you watch and that I watch. I see things that you don't get to see, and it's horrible. But when she's got a great love of children, she has a wonderful son that she loves, probably more than anybody, including me. I hate to say it, but she loves her son. She loves children, and she hates to see something like this happening. And that goes for other wars too. I mean, she sees the heartbreak, the parents, the funerals that you see on television. Always funerals. We want to see something other than funerals. No, she felt it was a beautiful letter. It was very well received by him. And she did ask me to say, she would love to see this end. She would love to see it end. And she says it very openly, very proudly, and with great sorrow because so many people have been killed.
This sounds insane for me even to ask this, but do you think the American media really doesn't even want a peace deal because they've seen they've been so critical of you every step of the way as you lead the charge for peace?
It's an amazing phenomenon. I said that if in the settlement you got Moscow, St. Petersburg, and thousands of miles around them, they would say I made a bad deal. The level of hatred and animosity is incredible. Not with all. I mean, we have great people up here. We also have terrible people up there that I think are told what to say. But, in solving all of these wars, they don't even write about it. I saw major wars. I saw wars that have been going on for 31, 35, and 37, and a couple of quicker ones. One that was going to go into a full-blown deal very quickly. You know what the one I'm talking about. It was a big one. But they don't even write about that. No matter what I do, no matter what, and this is not anything to do with you. It's probably to your advantage in a certain way. But no matter what I do, no matter what deal I make, from my standpoint, you'll come out good. Maybe President Putin will come out good. But they'll say Trump was absolutely horrible.
That, my friends, is absolutely right. Let's take a quick break here. James Golden, Bo Snerdley, fastest hour in American media. Keep it right here. Do not go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Everyone. everyone. It's Judge Janine filling you in on what's going on in the surge in Washington, D.C. We're at more than 400 arrests over the weekend, 127 this past weekend with our federal partners and this cooperative law enforcement effort. We seized 21 illegal guns. We've made arrests on warrants for homicide, sexual predators, drug trafficking, illegals. If you want to be in D.C. and you're a criminal, you're not welcome.
Well, that's not stopping Democrats, of course, like Chris Van Hollen, who just found nothing but criticism, as well as other elected Democrats. There are still voices, we played a lot of them over the weekend, of normal, regular, everyday people who are in support of what Donald Trump and this administration have been doing in Washington. The other big news today, and we didn't get to this yet, Texas. The Democrats there have caved. Are you off site, James? It sounds like you're calling into the show. Are you aware? No, I'm in the middle of technical hell, which is why it sounds the way that it does. And I would answer texts, except we're busy trying to fix the technical hells. But anyway, we're here, and that's what matters. Also, the Texas Democrats are going back home. That is also what matters. And they're going back home without proving anything except to get their fellow Democrats stirred up, which is maybe the whole point of all of this. I find it amazing that they decided to come back home when the money spigot from Beto O'Rourke was shut off. Ken Paxton had taken O'Rourke to court twice, and O'Rourke was forbidden by the courts from sending any more aid to these reluctant workers out of state. And as soon as the money dried up, they were on a plane heading back to Texas. James Golden, Snerdley with you here. Fastest hour in American media continues.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Yeah. Well, we were going to play Chris Van Hollen here, but we're having a date technically. It's like the gremlins are out. And so Chris Van Hollen, I guess we'll just have to wait because I didn't... Carlos, do we have it or what?
All of this is a total abuse of power. It's a manufactured emergency.
Yeah,
if you wanted to see an emergency in Washington, D.C., that was back on January 6, 2021, when President Trump did nothing to deploy the National Guard on time.
Same old talking point.
Here, obviously,
Stop
D.C.
it right there,
can
though.
do
Stop
more.
it right there for a minute, because I get so sick and tired of hearing about this January 6th. Every day in Washington, D.C., every single day, without fail, every single day in the nation's capital, more American citizens get hurt, injured, beaten up, robbed, or killed, or murdered. Every single day, that happens more in Washington, D.C. than anything that happened on January 6th. On January 6th, for the first time in many of their lives, politicians felt the same kind of fear, even though nothing happened. They felt the same kind of fear that people in the neighborhood surrounding the Capitol live with every single day. And it has affected them so much that people like Chris Van Hollen, like reporters like Dana Bash, cannot stop talking about January 6th was the worst violent day I've ever seen. January 6th, most people in D.C. who have suffered violence, including the 3-year-old girl that got shot to death a few weeks ago, if they had a sense of humor, they would laugh listening to these people like Chris Van Hollen go on and on and on about January 6th. And what did the freaking Democrats do after January 6th? They called in the National Guard. They called in the National Guard. They demanded National Guard. And then they built a fence around the
the entire Capitol building so nobody could get in unless they were checked. And at the same time, they were preparing to open America's borders so that anybody who wanted to, any criminal, could walk right in. These people were afraid for a few minutes, for a half a day, and they go on and on about it. The people who live in their blue cities, their corrupt blue cities, have to deal with fear every single day of their lives, and they don't give a rat's ass how scared these people are. They don't give a rat's ass how many kids die. They don't give a rat's ass how much drugs pours into these neighborhoods. They don't care. They don't care what's happening 25 minutes away from the Capitol building. They could care less. But oh boy, they get threatened, and all of a sudden, the world comes to an end. We have to erect a wall. We have to erect fences to keep those people out of here. And then they go on and on. They call the FBI, and they had the biggest manhunt in American history. They don't have these kind of manhunts when innocent boys and girls get killed every single day in their blue cities. You don't see this kind of effort. They don't use facial recognition to track everybody down years later. They could care less. I get so sick of these Democrats whining on and on about January 6th. And the people in Washington, D.C. are still suffering. We never even played any music, Carlos. I just went off. Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Keep it right here. Yes, the gremlins are out, folks, but we're going to persevere anyway, and we'll have it all straight. Keep it right here. 1984. This was number one on the singles charts. James Golden, Bo Snerdley with you here. You know, this whole thing, and then you have people like Eric Swalwell. That's cut 16, Carlos. Listen to Mr. Fang Fang and his take on this. It's just amazing to listen to these Democrats talk and talk and talk about. It's almost as if they don't want the people of Washington, D.C. to be safe. Here's Swalwell.
When they go low, we're going to bury them below the Capitol. That's what we're going to do, because this is about protecting democracy. And right now, as you see, D.C. has been militarized, and we were weak as Democrats, frankly.
We are going to bury them under the Capitol. We're going to bury them under the Capitol, which almost sounds like a death threat. It's quite amazing. It is quite amazing. Meanwhile, they do have their followers, some liberals in Washington, D.C., like this. I don't know who this guy is. He's a random male Karen type, 17. And this is his little take on what needs to happen inside D.C.
Yeah, you have young people who rob CVS's, and yeah, you have young people who will go and take down a 7-Eleven. But the answer isn't pouring the National Guard in here. The answer is programs that raise kids up.
So we need more programs, you see. Sure, you have kids that rob the 7-Eleven. Yes, we've got kids that rob, steal. We even have kids that murder. But you know what? The answer is not blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in your pocketbook. The answer is that we need more programs, you see. With more programs, more government programs, we'd be able to solve the criminal program. How many programs do we have? You can go through a litany of programs that the government is spending money on. In fact, we are $36 trillion, $37 trillion in program debt from all the government programs that exist. From the womb to the tomb. They're nothing but programs. From Head Start to then welfare programs. Everywhere programs. Has it solved the crime problem? Have any of these programs done anything to stop it? The answer is no. Now, switching gears very quickly, the Texas redistricting. As you know, The Democrats cut tail, turned Beto's money had to stop flowing, and so end of the big walkout. Jonathan Turley has great. I love this guy. Jonathan Turley, that's cut 15. Carlos, great take on the Texas redistricting and what Texas's role is in all of this.
Perfectly constitutional, in my view, for Texas to do what it's doing. A lot of the objections that are made are policy objections. You know, they can change their districts at this time. They don't have to wait every 10 years. They just had a question raised about their districts last year, so this makes sense to address it as well. So Texas can do what it's planning to do, and I don't think there's a constitutional challenge short of some type of voting rights challenge that you mentioned. But what's really striking here is how badly played this is for the Democrats. Of all of the places for these fugitive legislators to go, Illinois should have been the last on the list. It is the most gerrymandered state in the union. And most of us were just dumbfounded that they would go to Illinois, which is my home state. And Illinois, New York, California, those are all heavily gerrymandered. Republicans vote in a much higher percentage than the seats that they receive, and that's part of the problem for the Democrats. You know, when you start or you're pledged to have an all-out war, you probably need to look at what your assets are. The problem is that the Democratic blue states are already heavily gerrymandered. So you have the Massachusetts governor saying, "I'm going to retaliate," and most of us are saying, how? You don't have any Republicans left in your congregation. You and your delegation, you'd have to go to another state and gerrymander that state because you're done. So it's sort of funny, but they really are starting a fight here that I don't think they're looking past the first round, because there are a lot of red states that are largely untapped. And yes, the Republicans could produce a lot more districts.
And Republicans should produce a lot more districts, folks. That's what needs to happen here. California wants to play this game. By the way, Princess Diana on Saturday said that was very optimistic that despite all the bravado coming out of California, that perhaps Gavin Newsom might not have an easy time trying to push this new map through, which would limit 40% of the voters in California are Republican. It would limit their representation to 6%. 6%. And my hope is that we see some civil rights with Harmeet Dillon now over at the DOJ and the Civil Rights Division, that we find a novel way to find and file civil rights legislation, civil rights lawsuits, rather, against the Democrat Party for discrimination based on political affiliation and deliberately trying to, look, what they have done in the Northeast already. You look at states like Rhode Island. You look at states, Massachusetts, which is ironic. Massachusetts, Boston Tea Party. What was it about? The battle cry then was no taxation without what? Representation. Right now, Massachusetts Republicans are being taxed. They pay their taxes. They have zero representation in the House of Representatives. The same goes for Rhode Island. The same goes, I believe, for Vermont. The same goes for a bunch of states in the Northeast of the United States. And then you have states like Illinois, California, that are so heavily gerrymandered that most Republicans do not have adequate representation. There are many, many areas of Chicago where Republicans don't have representation, although they have to pay their taxes. There has to be a legal argument in here somewhere. Now, before we get away today, we got to visit the new big announcement from PMS NBC 19. Here's Joe Scarborough with the huge announcement.
All right, we have breaking news as it pertains to our network. This morning, a new name for the network by the end of the year. We will become MS Now, which stands for My Source for News, Opinion, and the World. And look, Andrew, they even have a graphic up. I like it.
There it is.
Actually,
the new logo.
It looks very sporty. As we go to Versant, we're going to be moving in this direction. MS Now, which I got to say, I got a call yesterday afternoon, and they're saying, "We hope you're okay. We're going." I was like, "What do you mean? Like this shows we're independent." And what I've said on this show time and time again is you look at the people that are running the company, they're entrepreneurial.
Right.
Like when you have somebody come into your company after working for like big corporations and you're talking, you're saying, and they go, "We want you to be entrepreneurial. We want you to come up with new ideas. We want you to push the boundaries." I'm excited about that. So I'm excited about this too. It's like, what's in a name? Well, whatever you put into the name.
Well, look, my understanding is this decision
whatever you put into the name, whatever they put into the name, that's enough of that.
Originally,
what is in the name? It's still PMS NBC. It's still the same. It is still the same programming drivel that was. So they're changing their name to what is it? My Source for News World. Something. Who cares? MS Now.
PMS Now.
PMS Now. PMS forever. PMS now, PMS forever. James Golden, Snerdley. We're coming back. What do we have here, Carlos? Ash. That's what we have here. American singer, actress Sarah Dash has heavenly birthday today. LaBelle, of course, the group she was with. Sarah Dash, Nona Hendrix, and Patti LaBelle. Were LaBelle back in the day. Sarah Dash passed away in 2021, 76 years old. The music, of course, lives on. James Golden, Snerdley, fastest hour in American media, even with the gremlins. We'll be back. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And of course, the gremlins are gone right now. Finally. Anyway, before we get out of here, two of the social media voices. They speak for themselves. You'll understand, I think, why we're playing them on this day.
I'm of the opinion that every single MAGA cultist is an unfit parent. They should not have children. They should not be responsible for a child's education, their well-being, or their spiritual guidance, in whatever sense the word spiritual means. Because they sure as shit don't follow the Bible.
Why?
And they don't follow anything but the hateful rhetoric of that orange man. Everybody knows, unless they are in blind denial or willful ignorance, what has occurred with the orange man and children. Everybody knows. They just choose to ignore it because they like the orange man and they want to protect him. And if they're willing to protect one person who would harm children, they're willing to protect a person that would harm their own children. So yes, I think every single maggot should lose their children.
It's amazing. I remember reading the diary about him taking showers with his daughter and his daughter being, that was Joe Biden. I remember him sniffing the hair of those young children and talking about how the kids used to like to rub his legs, the hair on his legs. Oh, I'm sorry. That was Joe Biden. Yes. And by the way, I don't think it's these MAGA kids, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're seeing running out, torching people's cars. Not to say that every MAGA child is cool. You know that's impossible when you cut across. But is it? Is it the MAGA kids that are out doing these smash and grabs in these big cities? Is it the MAGA kids that are out like in these gangs doing all that? Is it the MAGA kids that are bereft, the church-going MAGA kids that are the ones that are the issue here? Is it really? Okay, next one, Carlos.
So I'm just going to call it because I don't see anybody else calling it. We're in a civil war. It is this administration versus the people, the top versus the bottom. It is not left versus right anymore. It is top versus bottom. It is this administration against cities that don't comply. It is this administration against states that don't comply. The things this administration are doing to citizens are war crimes. This is war on our citizens. Specifically targeting our most vulnerable citizens who have the least ability to defend themselves.
Non-citizens.
It's sick. It's disgusting. This is civil war, and you got to choose what side you're on. Are you with the people, or are you a pawn for the 1%? And if that's the path you choose, just know they don't give a about you. You are a little cog in their machine that they can replace. Look at the way this country treats its veterans. They don't give a about you. They don't care about protecting you. All they care about is protecting their corporate interests and Israel. That's it.
Now it's revealed. Oh, folks, on that happy note, we have to leave. There's so much I could say about that. On this day, Marvin Isley was born. He passed away in 2010, but one of the younger Isley brothers. So in his honor and the Isley brothers, we're going to leave you with Harvest for the World today. And it's so well suited. My friends, thank you for being here. I apologize for the technical glitches. All resolved, hopefully, tomorrow. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude always for your being here with me. In spite of whatever we face together, and for me being with you. God willing, we are back tomorrow. Until then, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?